alcohol takes whatever you covet the most. Whatever's most important to you, that's what it's going to get.
Yeah.
That's what the addiction's going after.
Yeah.
Because why would it want something you don't even care about? You know, you might lose those things, but it started to sink in that alcohol is a devourer, and it is going to eat and eat and eat, and it does not stop.
Hey guys, welcome to the Faith Ignite podcast, and we're so excited you decided to join us and tune into today's episode. And we have two very important guests with us today, but before we jump into that, I want to ask you to do a few things. One, if this content is helping you, shaping you, motivating you, or molding you, I would ask that you hit that like button, turn that subscribe button, or hit that like button, press that subscribe button, turn the notification bell on so you are aware when new episodes drop. Secondly, hey, if this content is helping you, go ahead and drop a comment below. We would love to see what God's doing in your life so we can celebrate with you as well. And lastly, if you want to be able to become a faith partner with us, you can follow the link below and become a financial partner with this ministry and help us take these stories of faith around the world to the people that need them. So now that we have all of that out of the way, like I said in the beginning, we have two very, very important guests with us. The husband was on the podcast a couple months ago, and we had to invite him back, and we invited his beautiful wife with him, and they have a story to tell. And so I'm going to read what they told me as far as what their introduction is. But our guests, Brad and Amber, have been married for about 16 years now, have about 5 kids in total, the oldest being 34, the youngest being 14. Brad grew up in Ohio, and through his childhood, then he moved to Tulsa when he was about 15 years old. Amber grew up in Missouri. She was about 20 when she moved to Tulsa. And interestingly enough, they met here in town in Tulsa at a baseball game, and we'll kind of go into details as to how they met. But they met here at a baseball game, and the rest was history. They both are owners at Be Real Consulting, where Brad does a lot of his podcasting and everything social media related. On the other hand, Amber wears a lot of hats, and I want to make sure I get this right, so let me read it correctly. She is the activities coordinator, she's a chauffeur, she's an item locator specialist, chef, secretary, chef, hairdresser, fashion coordinator, and she is the travel agent. That's a lot of hats to wear.
I didn't realize you were going to read all of that.
Oh, yeah.
I was just having fun.
She
I
wears all that.
forwarded to him, and I didn't even read it. I'd have deleted some of that, man.
But in their free time, they love spending time with their family, doing movie nights, being outdoors, and just traveling. But most importantly, they love to be able to help people. They understand the importance of being able to give more than it is to receive, the blessing of giving more than it is to receive. And so most importantly, they are my brothers and sisters in Christ. And so with that long introduction out of the way, please help me welcome Mr. Brad and Amber Woessner.
Man, thank you for the introduction.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you.
We're excited.
So, one question we always like to ask all of our listeners. Who do I have the pleasure of sitting with? Who is Brad and Amber Woessner?
I'm going to make her start.
I'm Amber Woessner. I'm a faithful believer of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
First and foremost. I'm Brad's wife. I am the mom and stepmother of 5 kids.
Yeah.
Who else I feel like I'm a good friend.
Yeah. And then item
daughter.
locator specialist. Chauffeur.
And then all those other titles that you named off. I feel like that's me.
Yeah. Brad, who are you on the other hand?
I'm Brad Woessner, faithful believer, as my beautiful wife said. Just on a journey. I strive to continue to get better. I want to continue to grow in my walk with Jesus. Recently, he's kind of laid it on me to kind of inventory everything in my life, and if there's something in my life that might be interfering between me and him, to remove those things and spend more time with him. But the thing I probably am proudest of, like Amber said, is a great father. Probably didn't have the best role models for a great father, but I consider myself a great father. I love being a leader. I love helping people succeed. Yep. The giving is extremely important. Like, even if we hit a storm in our lives, you know, there's always the other things that come along with it, but we instantly start thinking about people that we could help in some way that we could give, because that always seems to quicken the cadence of getting out of the storm. Try to be a great friend. Do as much as I can, and I'm trying to do more of, not like the works, but I just want to help people. I got to this point in life, and I feel like many times I probably shouldn't even be alive. And so I feel like I've always felt like the reason that God has brought me this far in life is not, for me to buy another iPad for my kids, that I feel like he's brought me this far because he believes and knows that I will drop back and help other people. Yeah. I know I've said the word help like 10 times, but that's kind of it.
You can't overemphasize it.
No, I mean, and it's as things keep popping up too, you can either feel, and she does better about it than I do, but you can either fill your mind with those things and gratitude and helping other people, or you leave a void and you end up imprisoned by lies. So I try to feed myself what it needs to eat and not eat what the lies, So
yeah. Okay, so I always know, I was told this growing up, there's always two sides to every story. So I want you to tell me the side of the story. I guess, Amber, I'll start with you. Okay. The side of the story of how you guys met. Because there's always two sides to the story.
I'm glad you let me say it first, because Brad's is a little exaggerated. As everything will be.
Yeah.
I was a single mom, and I had a friend invite me over to a Drillers game. She had the suite with some clients. Said, hey, come over here. I got an extra ticket. So I went over. And we're going up the elevator, and she says, when we get up to the suite, there's a room full of people, but I'd like you to notice the guy to the left. It's a blonde guy to the left. He's over here sitting on a sofa.
So she's already prepping you.
She was always trying to set me up with someone. It was like her mission to try to find me that special person. So we get up in the suite. I walk in. I look at the guy to the left, and just wasn't my type. So I said, I'll stay, have a drink. Yeah. I go over, I sit by my best friend and her daughter, and who was in our wedding. And next thing I know, here comes Brad Woessner. Hey, my name's Brad Woessner. How you doing? What's your name?
That is so Brad.
And just come out of nowhere. And I was like, hi, I'm Amber. And he's like, where do you work at, Amber? And I said, oh, Big Splash. And he goes, oh, don't people die there? And I stopped, and I go, who are you again? Where did you come from?
Yeah. Man, great first impression.
Yeah. He's like, well, can I get you a drink? So he goes over and he starts pouring me a drink, and he's back there frustrated. And I just noticed his hands were shaking and he was nervous. And
that part's true.
So we're going down the elevator, and I said, I'm going to leave, go back, join my girlfriends. Yeah. I had been out. And the whole way down the elevator, he just kept running his mouth. I mean... And for me, because I was very shy and quiet, I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Obviously, there would never be a dull moment with him.
Yeah, no.
And so a few weeks later, she said, hey, Brad, that you met at the Drillers game, would like to have your number. Is that okay? I said, that's fine. Sure. So he calls. I could tell you right where I was driving, right what I was doing. And I pick up the phone all nervous. And he goes, hey, Amanda. It's Brad.
No.
Yeah. Here's the only part I want to interrupt was I hadn't asked a woman out in 20 years or 25 years. So I was sitting at my desk practicing, and I call her, and I get the number wrong. And she goes, oh, well, hi, Ben. And I go, oh, and I hung up and called her back. I was so embarrassed.
So when he's called me Amanda, I said, oh, hi, Ben. This is Amber. I'll call you right back. And he hung up the phone.
Yeah.
Rule number one, you got to get the name right.
So, okay, now the real part, and my part's funnier. So we're at the Drillers game. I'm with my 2 or 3 of the kids, and I was going through a divorce, and this part is true. Well, so I saw her come in the room, and saw her sit there, beautiful. She's all tan. And I literally was talking to God. I was like, see, God, there are women out there like that. I mean, it was love at first sight for me. And I was like, I go, there are women out there like that. I go, she's right there, And so then I did go over and try to start, schmoozing and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But the
Like a
funny
car
part
salesman.
was, hey man,
Oh, go ahead.
don't interrupt. I didn't interrupt you, man. But here's the funny part: is before they go in the room, Amber makes it a little bit nicer. She goes, "Okay, Amber, the guy I'm introducing you to, he's sitting on the sectional. He's a blonde guy to my left." Not the big blonde guy in the corner. He's a train wreck. He's a dumpster fire. He's going through a divorce. And then, of course, here I come,
Here he
and
comes.
who ends up together? The dumpster fire and the amazing
Wow.
girl. And then the funny part was the girl that the reason I was at the game was because her friend was my friend too. And so she invited me and the kids because she knew I was going through a tough time. And she invited Amber to meet up with Mr. Whoever, and anyway, she ends up. Then she gets us. We go to dinner. She helps us exchange numbers, so we're all excited. And a short time now, it's about a year and a half later, we decide we're going to get married. And we're like,
8 months.
yeah, okay. So we're like, hey, let's take Miss before we tell anybody. Let's take Missy to lunch. And so she sits down and we go, Missy, here's the deal, man. We're getting married. She goes, no, wait just a second. She goes, I want no credit for anything that positive that comes out of this deal. Wow. And I want no blowback if anything goes south. And we're like, well, that didn't go the way it was supposed to. We're hoping she's going to be excited and she's going to, she created this deal. And then her dad was the pastor that married us, and not every year, but every couple of years or so, I'll call him and I'll go, because it's been 16 years, and I go, Pastor Mark, I go, don't you wish we would have walked around the wedding reception and bet everybody that I was going to make it 15 years with Amber? We'd be rich, bro.
Yeah,
everybody would have taken the under. and I always tell him thank you, and I'll text him thank you. So yeah, between those two stories somewhere, there's the truth.
That's the glimpse of our whole 16 years of marriage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me ask this question. So you guys have been married 16 years. What's the secret?
I'll let you start.
Well, counseling. No.
Yeah.
We did premarital, and then we did it shortly after we got married, because we were both very strong-willed, independent leaders.
Yeah.
We're both Libras, and we're, so we were having that power struggle in our house. And, of course, Pastor Mark, who married us, was our counselor. And the best advice I got was learn how to argue. You're going to argue, but learn how to argue. So learn how to fight fair. And what triggers the other person, don't do that. So if you're, if you want to leave, the other person, that bothers them, you can't just up and leave. You got to stay there till you get the problem solved. Or don't curse at one another if that triggers the other person. Or just whatever it is. Set your ground rules for fighting, because you're going to fight. It's just over the
Not
stupidest.
Me. I'm extremely passive. I just go with the flow. I'm good.
Over the stupidest things you'll fight about, And I would say learn how to fight fair.
I will say that was one big thing, because she was the general manager of Big Splash. I ran a bunch of furniture stores. So when we came together, it was quite the two headstrong people. Yeah. But I will agree with her on we had to fight. We had to learn how to fight fair, and you can't take words back. And the other thing,
major. I know you're going to say the other major.
Yeah, the other major was that when we first got married, we kind of were both accountants, and we were keeping track of everything we did for the other person. Well, I did this, and this, and you didn't do this, and I did this, and this, and you didn't do this, and then I would go to say something to her, and she'd be like, well, you did this, and this, but you didn't do this, and this. And so through communication, we started talking.
We cleared the points.
Yeah,
got all the points off the table.
And said, look, here's what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on outgiving each other.
Just put the other first.
Put everything, no matter what it is. If it's no matter what it is, we're going to stop worrying about ourselves and thinking about we're getting the short end of the stick, or this isn't going right, or that isn't going right. And we're going to totally focus on what would be best for Amber, and Amber would do, how can I serve Brad? How can I be helpful to Brad? And
the amazing thing is, it works.
Yeah.
And you are reciprocated with something more than you ever thought would be that you would get from that other person, because you're just doing for them, and they think you're pleasing them, making them happy.
Yeah.
And in return, they're trying to outdo you. So
it's
now
this
we had a
ongoing
new battle. Who
Yeah.
can do better
Yeah.
than the other person?
Yeah.
but that's a whole lot better way. And I feel like we've even gotten better the longer we've been married. Like, people, you're around each other enough, there's going to be flare-ups or small flare-ups or whatever.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, knock on wood here, but it is like the amount of time that is wasted during those times is becoming shorter and shorter. Like there'll be a slight little deal, you can tell when somebody bristles up, then one bristles up, and then the next person will say something, and we're right back to life, you know. And that is one big thing, important thing to me, because I've seen, in my family and in previous marriages, you can waste a lot of time, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can
Absolutely.
waste weeks, months, not even talking to somebody, and the whole time the old hourglass of life is just pouring through, and you're just wasting time. And like she said, most of the time, if you kind of look back and go, hey, I remember we had a big fight last Christmas. What was it about?
You don't-
No
couldn't
one
even recall it.
remembers.
Yeah.
No one remembers.
So if you can't recall it a year from now, and one of her friends says that, when we go to talk, she's like, she does this with her kids. Is this a big problem or a little problem? So that's been a big deal, is let's keep
Put it in perspective.
Let's put it in
Yeah.
perspective here,
Yeah.
Another thing, let me tell you another thing. No,
No, go.
I gotta talk,
Go,
man.
go,
I don't
go.
get to talk at the
This is
house,
the
man.
Devon show.
No. Here's what else helped, man. I just gotta be real with y'all. Listen to me, man. No, what helped was we both had to get used to each other, but I was in a pretty high stress job, and I'd walk in the back door and she'd go, how's it going? I go, I swear to gosh, I'm about ready to stroke out. And she'd go, do you want to go over the bills? I'm like, bro,
Because I'm a mark it off my list type of person. So he's home now,
okay.
so we can talk about
Yes.
it. So then I can go relax.
Yeah,
Like that was
yeah,
my...
no, yeah, but I was like, no, I'm good, man. Let me get something to eat here. But it's figuring those things out, her deal in the morning before she gets her coffee, she's not quite as fired up as I am. Just getting to know each other better, but really loving, like Jesus said, loving the other person more than you love yourself, and loving them like Jesus loved us. And
Oh, I do have another piece of
Yeah, go
advice
for
for
it.
anyone.
Yeah.
Never use the D word. I mean, that was one of...
we're
had both...
going to get a divorce.
Yeah, we both had families.
Uh,
Our parents were divorced, and I never wanted that to be an option.
Yeah.
I had never lived with anyone before. Brad's the only person I've ever been married to. So for me, it was a big deal that it's never said, it's never threatened. It is just taken off the table. And so
altogether.
then, you have to work through it.
Yes, that's good.
It's a little bit longer of a story, but remember that deal Sean told me about how when you're trying to help me, sometimes it irritates me?
Yeah,
Is that too long?
Yeah, we might get to that.
Bro. 6'3", man, 240 pounds. She thinks she's my boss, man. She's not my boss. Go ahead.
So let me ask you this. So, how do I want to phrase this? So, now that you guys, prior to you guys getting married, obviously, Brad, you had your own life. Amber, you had your own life. Now coming into this marriage, meshing these two together, how did you guys effectively deal with past hurts, past traumas, baggage? Because I've known people where they bring that into the marriage and it just sabotages everything. How did you guys work through all of that, the upheaval and everything in between?
I'll let you go first.
Counseling. That would be my answer again. I mean, really, I feel like...
Yeah, because our pastor said when you're doing life together, you're staring at the same life, right? But it's like the other person is in a completely different movie theater. And so you're not seeing life. So you have to realize that they're seeing it through a different lens.
Yes.
And then, be totally transparent, which was a huge, one of the huge kind of milestone blessings of my life was I had abandonment issues, and dad issues from being a kid,
Yeah.
And this is before I went and got help and all that. But she identified that very quickly by certain actions I would take. And I'll never forget where I was. I was standing in her front yard and I was doing one of those panic attacks over something stupid because you can talk yourself into this person that you care so much about. You're about to lose them, right? Even though it's never going to happen. She grabbed my face and said, she knew. She looked at my face and she grabbed my face by my little face and goes, look, no matter what happens, I'm not leaving you. So let's get that out of your head and let's work on that. And then we can, and there was something about it, man, that was just, obviously I still have things I got to work on. But as far as she and I, that was kind of a big turn in the corner where we could set that aside, that was one thing that wasn't still on the table that we had to navigate through.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. And I was married a couple times before her, and that was one of the things that our pastor said, that you start bringing in other things that happened and other things that went on before you, and like you said, past hurts and stuff like that, and expect this poor person who's never been married before to be able to do those things. The other thing, and I'll let you finish on it, was we had a blended household. We had his, hers, and ours. And so with the night we were, the wedding rehearsal, was it the wedding rehearsal where your mom said something?
No, I was getting ready to walk down the aisle. You were already standing at the podium, and they were getting ready to open the doors for me. And my mom said, sweetheart, just a little piece of advice. She said, you and Brad will be fine. You guys can tackle anything. She said, but your hardest problem is going to be the kids, the blended family.
Right
as I'm walking down the aisle.
Right before I'm like, you couldn't have told us this, a month ago.
Yeah.
Another thing that we and I'll admit it, would be like Aiden, my bonus son, I call him. Like he would do things, and I'd be like, oh, you need to beat him, or you need to. We didn't beat him, but you need to ground him. You need to do this. You need to do that. And then the older kids, my original kids, would do something. I'd be like, oh no, man, it's cool. And she's like, and so we had to figure out
the double standard.
That emotionally,
it is, because you're protecting your own individual, and he's So that was a constant.
Huh.
Yeah. But now we do like this. This is how we do this. You can steal this, man. Like, let's say we're talking about a family member.
Yeah.
You'd be like, hey man, let me tell you something. I love your brother. Love him. But he's whack. But you always gotta say I love him. And then you can say, and they're like, oh word, okay, yeah, I'm good with that, man. I'm good with that. But then the blessing on that was they did have struggles within the house, because the three kids, they had hurts from the divorce from me and their mom. And Aiden was, he had his whole house with his mom, and
didn't have his dad around.
His dad around.
Yeah.
And so, they and now you're bringing them in together into this deal, and the older kids are jealous of Aiden, and Aiden's now jealous he's got to share a house. So it was a lot.
We couldn't fail.
Yeah.
We could have.
Yeah.
We could have easily.
Yeah.
But for the kids, we couldn't.
But the meshing thing was, who she's now 14 is our daughter Avery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because now there was DNA, this little chosen one. There was DNA from this group.
Yeah.
And there was DNA from this group.
Yes.
And now they had this common deal. And now I would tell you, those 5 kids are very close. Mm-hmm. Like they text each other without us being there. They'll come pick up Avery from the house and go do fun stuff with her. And when they're at our houses and stuff, me and Amber might be in the kitchen, and they're all, ranched out on the sectional, just enjoying themselves.
Wow.
And to think where we started, that's a huge blessing. So,
wow. Mm-hmm. So Amber, I have this question for you.
Okay.
So I've seen the bad side of this, where, especially women, I've seen older ladies, they talk about how, oh, he has kids, stay away from him, he's bad news. Obviously you guys have been married 16 years. Did you ever face anything like that where people try to say, no, stay away from Brad, he's bad news?
Yes.
No.
No, I really did.
I would have stayed away from me, man. No, I would have stayed away with me. I had more red flags than a golf course,
We
bro.
had some people cautioning us, is this cautioning
They
me?
weren't costing me, yeah.
Yeah. You'd have been rich if you took a bet on that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess when you know, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
Yeah.
no other. He's all the things that I'm not,
Yes.
and I'm all the things that he's not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we could just lean in on each other, and it just works. I mean, he's a little older than I am.
Yeah.
So he is
Not much.
immature. I'm an old soul.
Yeah.
So we
no,
meet in the
I'm
middle.
a young kid.
But even with kids, I do hear that. And I have friends that are still dating that haven't married yet. And they're like, oh, but he has kids, or the baggage. I guess for me, because I knew I wanted a big family and I grew up in a big family, that didn't bother me.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can get caught, however you want to say it happens. You can get caught by excluding certain people, and next thing you know, you're by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, because everybody's going to have issues. Everybody has a flaw, so to say, well, I don't, he's bald, or he's got kids, or he's too old, or he's too young, or, he doesn't have a nice car, he doesn't have a nice job, all those things are all just things we're just supposed to accept. I mean, there's obviously some things you can't overlook, but.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. When did faith become real to you guys? What was that moment in life where, because you can live off someone's faith for so long. You can live off your parents, aunt, grandmother, so on and so forth. But when was that defining moment where it's like, I realized like I'm responsible for this relationship with God. I have to grow this. When was that moment for you? Like, when did that light turn on? When was faith real?
We were actually just talking about this the other day. First in our marriage, at first, Brad was the big, strong faith leader and very religious and deep in his faith. And over the years, it's kind of shifted with the obstacles and things we've been through. Not saying that you're not anymore.
No, it hasn't diminished, but.
It hasn't diminished, but where my faith has grown stronger. And we've went through some struggles. Well, Brad's addiction. That was with drinking. That was one of our biggest struggles.
And you guys are married at this time?
We were married at this time,
yeah.
And it was shortly after we had Avery, and struggled with that. And then we thought it'd be a great idea to go buy this house that was amazing. And we had not sold our other house at the time. So we had 2 house payments for 18 months.
18?
18.
What were the interest rates were low at this point or high?
They were okay, but I don't even want to tell you what our total.
Our overhead was insane, and we just went with
staggering.
Went with the flow. I hadn't prayed about it.
Wait, this was like an impulse buy?
It was just like
an.
It had a pool,
yeah,
bro.
we wanted a swimming
pool. We had
pool.
to have a pool, and then it was getting to be close to summer, and we're like, we out of here, man. We got to go to the pool.
Yeah, so we did that. So 18 months, and the week before we got a contract on our house we were trying to sell, because I thought we were going to have to put both up for sale and just see which one sells first. The week before, I was at church on Sunday, and I can tell you the song I was listening to, it was by Bethel. It was It Is Well.
Yep, another one, yeah.
And through it all, my eyes are on you.
Yep.
And God just come over me, spoke to me, and he said, it's going to be okay. He said, it's going to happen. And so I told Brad as we were walking out of church, I go, something's going to happen. It's going to be okay.
The crazy part about that, not to keep interrupting her, but it's my favorite thing to do. I had told our pastor that morning, just kind of randomly, that we were 18 months, and we were loans and money out of our 401k, and
we were finagling.
We were moving money, and I had told our pastor that morning that that same morning I walked in just having a casual conversation. I go, hey, I just want to tell you I was having this casual conversation with Amber, and I said, whatever you do, because I was still making good money even though I had a lot of bills. I go, whatever you do, it is non-negotiable to not tithe. Whatever you do.
Yeah.
And then that was like a Friday or Saturday, And then I told him that on Sunday, and then she heard the same Sunday on Sunday. So because of our obedience and our faithfulness, man, but it was a long 18 months.
Through that 18 months is when my faith grew stronger. Leaning in on God instead of worrying about finances, which we worried, but just leaning on Him. I joined a mother's fellowship group, so I had a really good group of women around me. And not just sitting there dwelling in my own sadness or anxiety. And I was supporting other women and lifting other women up.
Yeah.
And for me, that's when my faith took a big rocket boost. And
I think for me, when my faith has grown and it continues to grow, probably because I'm a hard learner, is, anytime I'm in the storm, or something negatively impacts my life out of my ability to control it, which really you don't have much control over anything if it really comes down to it. You only have control over you and how you react to what happens to it. Really, God's in control. And so normally when those things happen, I don't believe that God does bad things to us, but I do believe at times He allows certain things to happen to us because He's trying to, most of the time for me, that may put it like that. If something bad happens to me, I end up making a move, and then I realize not long later, wait, God kind of told me to do this months ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So sometimes to me, He creates something that happens or creates an obstacle which causes me to take a right turn, and then I get to there, and I'm like, well, He told me to do this along,
Yeah.
And so that's just...
You just needed some motivation to get it done.
Yeah. So I think that's... And I think too, as we, as I, I say I wasn't young when we got married, but as I matured, I realized, that, and it's not just monetarily, but, it wasn't just me and Amber. There were kids involved, and how their life unfolded would have an impact on the next generation. And so that made me want to be a better person. And, anyway, that I think those are the biggest things that help me grow in faith is when good things happen too, that there's no other way to describe them except for God. Obviously, that helps me to grow in faith. And one other thing we've noticed lately is, you wouldn't think so, but even though I'm the bigger person in stature, I have a tendency of worrying. And I kind of figured what the deal is when I do get to the point to vocalize the anxiety or the worry or whatever it is, which is helpful because once you put it out in the universe, you immediately realize it sounds stupid, But so I will say whatever I'm worried about.
Yeah.
And she will repeat, dude, I'm talking about like an auctioneer. She will repeat 4 things God did the last time we were in this situation. See what I'm saying? Where I'm seeing the situation that we're in, she immediately recollects all the things that He did the last time we were here.
You got any examples?
You do. You want me to tell you?
Do you recall one?
Well, the one of them is every time we start to worry about, no matter what it is how we moved houses. At the end of last year.
Okay.
And we bought a different house.
The house that we bought with the pool, because we had to have a swimming pool.
Yeah, it was big. It was stupid.
This big house. We loved it. We were extremely blessed. This was Brad's dream house, to show he'd finally made it.
Yeah.
And at the time we had 4 kids at home. Well, then they moved out, went to college. We ended up one in the house, and I thought, this is so silly. So I went to him and I said, I really feel like we should sell this house and downsize. And you said, are you nuts?
Yeah. I don't think it was that nice, but I think that's the best thing that we can say on camera.
I cleaned it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I thought this is unnecessary to have this big of a house.
You have 3 people living in, it was a big house. It was a blessing. But you basically had 3 people living in 1,500, 2,000 square feet. Because we only lived in a small part.
You're right.
And Avery, the 14-year-old, she lived upstairs in her small little part.
Yeah.
And so we weren't even using the whole house anymore. There were rooms we weren't in for months.
We put it on the market. Went through a roller coaster with that. We ended up selling it in December. That was in May. We sold it in December, and we were in this new house, which we
Okay.
absolutely adored and loved. That
Okay.
was in January.
Okay.
Get moved in, sell the other
And
house.
I feel like,
everything's
not
great.
to talk over each other, I really feel like, because this idea of selling our dream house, this idea came out of nowhere. And I really
did.
feel like it was a message from God, because she would listen to him more than
Obedience.
I would. Yeah,
That's
obedience.
what my friend
Keyword
said.
there.
I
And
was
so, because of
obedient.
my pride, I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to move out of this big house,
Yeah.
even though it made no sense, for us to be in it.
So we did. We sold the big house,
Okay.
took the money, put it down on this smaller house, which
Yeah.
it's really not that small,
No.
but it's amazing for us and
Yeah.
our teenage daughter. And 6 months after we did that, Brad was let go from his job,
Wow.
just out of the blue.
So thankfully, though,
We're like, we see you,
was-
God. Now we know why.
Now it makes sense.
He was paving
now
the
it
road
makes
for
sense.
us.
And she says that all the time. She goes, honey, I don't know. I can't answer it right now. She goes, whatever. She goes, but at some point in time, we will understand why this happened, And so on this one, literally what we owed the world was less than half, and our overhead was half of what it was in December. And so then this other deal comes up, which was, it's never fun to lose your job, but it was not a great thing by any means, but it was manageable because
We weren't in panic mode.
yeah, we could do some things that we wanted to do, So anyway,
We would have been had we still been in that
the
other big
house.
monstrosity of a house.
Man,
so
look at
then
God.
when certain things come up, to answer your original question, so when certain things come up, like, oh, I'm worried about this, and this, or I'm worried about this obligation that we have, she's like, hey, remember when we had the house? And,
Yeah.
So, every time, this has happened, God's been there before we get there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
He just has to get everything going
Yes.
in this web to know
Yeah.
to work for everyone that's got asking for all these different prayers and
But that
blessings.
has been one thing we realize. And you know what? Still, even with all the blessings and all of he's undefeated. God's undefeated.
Absolutely.
And I still will second guess him, and like, I wonder if we're going to be okay. And then, you get there, it's bad. It's a little bit better right now, but you get close to the situation or whatever, and it's like, he's already there. And you're like,
he's like the snowplow.
yeah.
Going right ahead of
Or
us.
he literally, plows out ahead, and he's waiting for you to get there, you know. And Brad, one of our mutual friends, said something, and I had this is kind of talking about the God thing. Is when I was going through this deal this summer, talking about things that particularly I need to remember more. Was we were at Universal Studio, and it was really busy. It was in summer, and we hit this kind of bottleneck in the park,
Okay.
And so I grab Amber and Avery, and I kind of put them close to me, and I never heard an audible word in my life, but God was like, see, that's what I'm doing with you. You're in a storm, and I'm pulling you closer to me. I'm not further from you, which we kind of get in our heads that, for some reason when there's, like any of our kids, if you're into a situation, or your wife, if you're into a situation that's a little shady situation, ever, you're putting her closer
close.
to you.
Close,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. And you got your head on a swivel. And so to think that God's not doing the same thing, But there again, those are the things I read one time. It's 4 times easier to remember failure than it is success.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I think it's important to do what she does. Is she's constantly all day long reminding herself of God's blessing.
Yes.
I'm getting better about it, but that is one thing that I got to give it to her on,
Thank you.
And then another thing I was talking
Preacher
about,
Brad.
huh?
I
What?
said, thanks, Preacher Brad.
No, and I was talking to another friend today about, because I'm getting a little irritated with her that she's that faithful, No, I'm just kidding. I'm
I
just
was like,
kidding.
man, you
But
won that in your life.
you know what? You know what my friend said? He
What?
goes, you know why your wife's so faithful? He goes, because mind you, she's a stay-at-home mom. She's the engineer of the house. I wouldn't take her job for nothing. Yeah, no. So I was talking to my friend today, and he goes, and I was bragging about her, and he goes, "You want to know why she's so faithful?" I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because she don't look at you as her provider. God's her provider."
Oh, that's good.
Ain't that something? But it did kind of put things into perspective that,
yes.
you know, if my wife is looking at the situation like that, I need to take the mantle off myself and put it back where it's supposed to be. That, you know, he is going to pull harder than I can, and wants to, if I'll just be obedient and let go of the wheel, as my friend called it. You know, let go of the steering wheel, man.
Let God do what he wants to do.
Yeah, because I had a buddy tell me, because, you know, you start that negative rambling to yourself, and a buddy of mine had a great saying. He goes, "Oh no, you can put Satan in the car. You can pick him up if he's hitchhiking, but sooner or later he's going to want to drive."
For real.
For real?
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to leave him out of the car.
Yeah, don't
let him in. Don't put him in the car, and put God at the steering wheel.
Huh.
Deep, huh? I feel you, man.
Okay, so let me ask this. So backtracking a little bit to where we guys talked about, you guys had that what do you call it? That fight between when there was an alcohol problem.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about what that was like. I mean, obviously, you guys are now married. This is the kind of life you guys set to live, but now you have the speed bump in the road where a lot of people, you're like, you know what, I'm out. A lot of people like, I'm done. But you guys decided to work it out, even though it probably was uncomfortable, it probably was hard. Talk to me about what that was like, because there might be someone on the other end that's going through something right now with their spouse, with their kids, where they're like, you know what, I can't do this. But maybe hearing something from you guys may give them that extra fuel to continue to keep moving on. So
let me start this one, and then you get your thought. I'm not being smart aleck. Let me get this. So the big part of it was, obviously, I've abandonment stuff. She's my hero. She's my life and my kids. And I realized I had pushed her to the point that even though she said she wouldn't leave me, I'm not making it any easier on her, right?
Yeah.
So, but before that happened, even before then, I would have these flare-ups and I would get to drinking. And so we went back to our counselor.
Okay.
And our pastor, and he was saying, "Look, Brad," he goes, "I know you I know you think you're a functioning alcoholic here." He goes, and he just talked to me straight. He goes, "But let me tell you something. Here's what Satan's mission is. He wants to kill you." Straight up. He looked me dead in the eye. He goes, "This is not a game to him." He goes, "You're running a business. You have 5 children. You're successful. And as you succeed, this bullseye on your back gets bigger, and Satan wants you." Yeah. And this is not a game. I'm not trying to scare you, but there's nothing that would make Satan happier than for you to fail. Yeah. And so we got on his computer and we found a place, Celebrate Recovery, and I started going there. I still would drink, maybe not as much, but I was still drinking. It doesn't matter. You're drinking. Yeah. And then I kind of hit bottom. Well, before I even hit bottom, I would go to these meetings, and I would go to the big group meetings, and then when I would go to the small group meetings, and God started revealing to me, and I am not judging anybody. I'm just kind of being straight, telling you my story.
Yeah.
So I would sit in these rooms, and I am very observant, and I started noticing a lot of these guys didn't have wedding rings on, and when they told their story in small group, the majority of them had no relationship with their kids because of alcohol. And so it started to sink in, like, dude, alcohol takes whatever you covet the most. Whatever's most important to you, that's what it's going to get. Yeah. That's what the addiction's going after. Yeah. Because why would it want something you don't even care about? You know, you might lose those things, but it started to sink in that alcohol is a devourer, and it is going to eat and eat and eat, and it does not stop. For me, this was my belief. And when I saw those guys sitting there, and they had already, like, I had another guy that I was talking to, I was greeting at Celebrate Recovery one night, and I was trying to encourage him. He had a court date that week, and I was like, "Hey man, are you okay?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Man, I just wished I'd have listened to my mom." And I go, I'm always wanting to hear mom's advice. You know, I was like, "So what'd mom say?" Now, this is a guy that's had a couple DUIs, ready to go to court, probably is going to spend some time in jail. Yeah. He goes, "Man," she told me, she said, "Son, you know you can drop that boulder of alcohol and go back up and get air. You don't have to go to the bottom of the lake and hold on to the alcohol. And I was like, so those small things God started speaking to me about, and those were the things. And then it got to the point where I knew that it even kind of scared me, was that I knew I had hit bottom. And that's when I reached out, which I'd been going to Celebrate Recovery. That's when I reached out to my sponsor. Got it?
Yeah, keep going.
Reached out to my sponsor, and we met the next Monday night and got a game plan together. And, the big thing about any addiction that I learned through this was the quickest way to get well. One is if it's causing you a problem, it's a problem.
Okay.
If it's bigger than you are, go get help.
Right.
And once you get to that point, then you got to change your playmates and change your playground, which means you can't keep hanging around with people that drink, and you can't keep going to bars, because if you do that, you're never going to get free. So now, seriously, I know you're sitting there thinking, no, I want to hear your side of it too.
Yeah.
No, for me, it was different because it was hard for me to even understand addiction. I have a brother that struggled with it since he was 15, and I still never understood, I knew he'd put my mom through a lot.
Yeah.
But I never understood how he struggled with it so much. To me, I'm disciplined, so it's like, well, I can have one drink of wine and put it down.
Yeah.
I can have a sip. I can have one, whatever it is, and just say, oh, no, I'm done. I couldn't understand how Brad couldn't just say no and do that. So it was explained to me in counseling that it's like cancer or any other disease. It's a disease.
Yeah.
And if it's left untreated, it will kill them.
Yeah.
And but I wasn't going to divorce because that wasn't an option.
Part of vocabulary, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't on the table. But for me, I had to threaten, and because it came down to protecting my kids. This isn't a good, not that he wasn't safe.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a good, healthy environment.
Yeah.
Because I was frustrated. We were fighting. We were, back and forth.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want the kids around that.
Yeah.
And that was when it got serious. And
and that's when I kind of drew a line. She helped me draw the line in the sand.
Yeah.
And then I went and talked to my sponsor, and we got a game plan together, and I was okay if I went Monday night, Celebrate Recovery, Tuesday night, a 12-step, Wednesday night was a Bible study. Well, once I got that much into the week, I was like, well, I'm 3 days in now I'm cool. And then every week would like a relay race, you know? But to answer your deal about people, because it is hard if people have never had an addiction. It's hard to be around somebody because you see them dealing with this, and you see them losing things, and you see them, wrecking cars and all these other things. So it is very difficult for somebody like her that's never experienced it. And she said the big D word. She's disciplined. So it's hard. But for the people out there listening, just to encourage them, if you do have an addiction, you're not flawed.
Yeah.
no.
You're not broken.
Yeah.
Even though I had an addiction, there were a lot of things that I was stronger at than Amber was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you have an addiction, that does not make you a lesser person or some subculture. You just are sick, like she said. And I heard somebody else analyze it this way: 1 out of every 10 people are highly addictive people. So you're just a statistic, not in a bad way, a statistic. Like 1 out of every 10 people, if they touch poison ivy, they get poison ivy on their hand. Well, you don't see somebody with poison ivy and go, well, you're flawed. You're weak. Why? How did you get poison ivy? Why would you get poison ivy? What did you do with poison ivy? No, they got sick. So when those people that are highly addicted people touch alcohol, it's the same way. I tell people all the time, like she mentioned, it used to just blow my mind that, she could have half a glass of wine and go pour it down the sink, because,
He'd say, why are you wasting that?
Yeah. I'm like, because I'll empty a Coors Light truck. That ain't happening with me, So the key was, and Satan, let me tell you something. Satan never says, hey, here's the deal, Brad. Go get in your car, and we're going to go tie one on, and we're going to go on a bender for 3 days, and you're going to, hack your whole family off, and you're going to be this close to losing your life. And come on, doesn't that sound good? That's not what he does. He goes, just go get a beer. Yeah. Just go get one beer.
Just one.
Just go get a tall boy. Just go get a tall boy.
You've earned it. You've had a good day.
Yeah.
Or you've had a bad day.
Yeah. Most of mine was I was celebrating good things.
Brad
and
would
I just
say
was really blessed.
it was saying. Elvis's birthday. Or, just
I make up some stuff,
and
man.
finally I'm like, you're coming. No.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's one walk away from it, from people that are struggling with addiction, because it is all encompassing. And like I said earlier, you cannot, solitude is good, isolation's a killer. And so if my guy said, when I met with him that night when the line was drawn in the sand, he said a couple of things I'll never forget. A wise man is not the man that has all the answers. A wise man has great questions. And so he said, Brad, let me ask you a question. Is your drinking causing you problems? I'm like, yeah, bro, let's go. He goes, then you have a drinking problem.
Simple.
I was like, well, snap, never really heard it like that. And then he goes, you're pretty successful at life, aren't you? I go, yeah. He goes, well, if you could kick this addiction on your own, you would have already done it. Get some help. You can't do it by yourself.
Thank you so much for your support in Faith Ignite. And I just want to challenge and encourage you just to take your support just a little bit further. In order for us to reach the mission and vision that God has called us to as a ministry, we realize we need help. We realize we need support. And this is why we realize we need you. In order for us to take these messages of faith around the world, it's going to require partnership from people all over. And so we're going to ask, if you feel led to go and partner with us, go ahead and follow the link that's linked down below, and it'll take you to our website, and you can be able to partner with us there. But just know that when you partner with us, you are helping us to take these stories of faith around the world. People, by listening to these stories, people will know that God is real. People will know that God is true. People will know that God is alive and well, and He's doing things in the life of His children. And those stories deserve to be heard. And so thank you so much in advance for helping us to take these stories of faith around the world to the people that need them. We love you guys. Hey, it's almost been it's an hour. Wow. I didn't realize it's an hour that passed so far since we started. So one way we always like to wrap up every episode, if there is one piece of advice that either one of you can give our listeners or your younger self, what would it be?
I tell our daughter this all the time, and I remember being told this all the time also, was the things you're worrying about right now are not going to matter in 5 years, 10 years, 15. So don't worry about the small things. Be kind. Be a good person. Worry about who you can help. Because these little things, how you do your hair, or what you wear, or what a boy says, or it's not going to matter. You're not even going to remember it. And I had those things told to me, but really, I mean, just be kinder to people. Help more people. Mm-hmm. That's what I would go back and tell myself.
I think because of my abandonment and insecurities at times, and this was just recently, and I'll come back on and share more, but I would tell myself at a young age, you're enough. You're enough, buddy. You've been sitting here with every tool. This is not a game to God, and you've been sent to this earth with every tool you need to achieve what you were sent to achieve. And, you might want to achieve this over here, but that was what you were sent here with. You know what I'm saying? So I would think that would be one of the big things. I think that to get that, because I still have to remind myself of that, no matter how hard you try, no matter how you try to fill that void. It's something that that would be one thing is you're enough. You're good enough. You got everything it's going to take to get there. Make good decisions. Yeah. That is one thing. Make good decisions, because, your mom tells you that when you're a kid. But it's the thing that got me was I didn't make good decisions and I hung out with the wrong people. Well, how many times did our moms tell us that when we were kids? Don't hang out with those people. You're going to end up, in a van down by the river, And so as I reflected back on my life, I take responsibility for all the good and the bad but I look back and I did not make good decisions, consistently made good decisions. If the highway is heavy or the highway is rough, take the exit of repentance, because I've even gotten better with her about that. Instead of trying to, juggle these balls or tell her whatever, just tell her the truth, tell her what happened, and move on. And so that would be, please.
I would also tell myself, look out for a guy named Brad Woessner.
Yeah. No.
Warning.
He's smooth, man. Watch him. He's a talker. And I hate that when she does that. She goes, man, don't put that salesman stuff on me. I'm like, I am not putting no salesman stuff on you.
I can do that. Oh, man. Well, we're going to have to wrap this episode up, but Brad, Amber, thank you guys so much
Thank you, sir.
for coming on the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. This is interesting to get to see the side of you guys. I never saw it. It was such a blessing to see and how to you guys walk me through your life and see what God has done. It was such a blessing to have you guys on the podcast.
Thank you.
It's a blessing to be here, seriously. And as you this will be a short, but it's important for us to recount these things and share these things, because it reminds us of who He is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
That it's important. The strength is not in the struggle. The strength is in the victory after the struggle. And sharing with people that there is, on the other side of that huge storm, is the biggest blessing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so by coming here talking about the storm, but at the same time talking about the blessing on the other side of it, it helps. It's good for us to remind ourselves of that. Yeah.
That's exactly why this platform was created, to encourage and help people so they can believe God for more.
Yep.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap this episode up. But like I said in the beginning, hey, if this content is helping you, shaping you, encouraging you, molding you, hey, hit that like button, turn that subscribe button, or hit that like button, press that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on so you are aware when new episodes drop. And if you want to become a financial partner, you can follow the link below. It'll take you to our website, and you can help us share these messages of faith around the world to the people that need them. And then lastly, like I said, if something's going on in your life, we want to know about it. Go ahead and drop a comment below drop a comment in the comment section so we can see what God's doing in your life and we can celebrate with you. Okay? And so we're going to have to sign off for this episode, but until next time, my name is Devon Williamson, and this has been Faith Ignite. We'll see you guys next time.